Hey guys, welcome to this video lecture. In this video lecture, we are going to see how to install Raspberry Pi OS on a Raspberry Pi computer in a wireless and headless mode. So when I say wireless mode, it means that we will connect to Raspberry Pi using my home Wi-Fi network, and headless mode means we are not going to use any sort of visual display or any monitor in order to access Raspberry Pi visually. So that is quite possible. So let us see how to do that. So the very first thing that we need is Raspberry Pi Imager software. And for that, we need to visit this URL. By the way, this document has got all the steps that I'm going to explain in this video. And in case you want to have access to this document, just check the description section of this video lecture and you will find the URL to the GitHub repository for this document. So let us get started. Now let me go ahead and paste this link in the browser. And let us go to the raspberrypi.com/software. Now, let us scroll down and see. Yeah, so here we have installed Raspberry Pi OS using Raspberry Pi Imager. So earlier we had to download the image of Raspberry Pi OS operating system, and then we had to flash that image using a software like Win32 Disk Imager to the Raspberry Pi. But now Raspberry Pi has provided its own software for doing all these steps in a single go. So I'm going to go ahead and download this software for Windows. So download for Mac OS and download for Ubuntu for x86 option is also available. And in case you want to use this software for Raspberry Pi OS, you can download and install it with sudo apt install rpi-imager. So let us go ahead and download it for Windows. It shouldn't be very big. Its size is 18 MB and it will take a few seconds for it to download. So the time for download depends on your internet speed. I have got a pretty fast internet connection, so it is not going to take more than a few seconds. So now the download seems to be complete. Now I can just go ahead and click the imager_1.6.2.exe. It's an installable file. So it is going to open that setup and it is asking me for admin credentials. So after entering the admin credentials, here we can see the setup wizard. So we just need to click install and show details. Okay, it says stopping Raspberry Pi Imager. Okay, now it is copying the files. I had actually earlier version of Raspberry Pi Imager installed on this system. So for this video, I am again downloading this setup and installing it. And the version that I'm installing is newer than the version that I had already installed on this system. So before installing this new version, I made sure that I uninstalled the earlier version so that there is no conflict. So setup has finished copying the files and now Raspberry Pi Imager is ready to launch. So let me click finish and launch the Raspberry Pi Imager. So here we have Raspberry Pi Imager 1.6.2. Now all I need to do is choose a micro SD card and insert it into the micro SD card reader and then connect that reader to my Windows PC. So let me do that. So I have connected a 64 GB micro SD card to my computer using a micro SD card reader. And we can browse that card in the file system here. So this is the file system of my PC. And you can see here that there is a new volume H. So for confirming if the micro SD card is working properly, I created a text file in that test.txt. And it seems that the micro SD card is quite okay. You can check its size by right clicking here and clicking the properties option. Here you can see it is 59.5 GB. So basically it is 64 GB. Some part will be used for internal purpose. I don't know. Now in case you want to see the health of your SD card, you can just open the Microsoft's create and format hard disk partition utility. And it will take a moment for the utility to open because lots of physical hard disks and micro SD cards are connected to this computer. So it is obviously going to take some time for it to read all the information and to present us visually. Okay, here we have the Microsoft's disk management utility, and here you can see the micro SD card connected to our computer. So here you can see its size and you can see that it is in excellent health. So I'm going to leave it as it is, and let us close this disk management utility. Now let us reopen that minimized window of Raspberry Pi Imager version 1.6.2, and here we can choose the storage and we can choose the micro SD card. So it is going to show us only one option because this Raspberry Pi Imager assumes that we are connecting a SD card or micro SD card using some sort of card reader device. So it is only going to read the disk that is connected to that card reader stuff. It is not going to show your hard disk connected to your processor on your motherboard. So don't worry about messing up with the hard disk or any data in the hard disk. So this is the beauty of this utility. So I'm going to choose the only option that we have here. Now here it is showing the correct size, 64.1 gigabytes. Okay, so we have chosen the mass storage device. Now we have to choose the operating system. So I'm going to click this button, choose operating system, and here we have Raspberry Pi OS 32-bit, and we also have Raspberry Pi Other. So I'm going to click this other part, and here I'm going to say Raspberry Pi OS full. So this is the full option. It means that it will have not only Raspberry Pi OS, but all the essential utilities to get started with software development with Raspberry Pi. So I already have chosen operating system and storage. Now I just need to click the right button and it is going to start the writing process. Now it says all existing data on mass storage device USB device will be erased. Are you sure you want to continue? We had already seen that our new storage device doesn't have any meaningful data. So I'm just going to click yes, and it is going to start writing the operating system to the micro SD card. So I'm going to close this window now and let us continue with our Raspberry Pi Imager version 1.6.2. So it is opening the drive now, and in a few moments it is going to start writing. Okay, it says error writing to the storage. So I guess we have to work with some workaround. So again, open the disk management utility. So it will take a moment and we will remove the existing partition. So after that, it should work very well. It shouldn't have any problem. So I'm here, new volume, and I'm just going to say delete volume and just click yes. And it is going to delete the volume. Okay, now it says 59.69 GB unallocated. Now I'm going to close this. Okay, the window doesn't seem to be responsive now. Okay. And I'm going to unmount the disk. I'm going to disconnect it now and reconnect it again. So now let us go to the file system and let us wait for some time. So here we are able to see an empty H drive, and it is not readable because we haven't created any new volume in that. Now this is very raw disk, and let us choose the mass storage again. So here we have chosen the mass storage again, and let us choose the Raspberry Pi OS full. Now if we click write button, it should be able to write data on this completely raw disk. It shouldn't actually create any more troubles for us. So let us wait and watch, and let us see what happens. So now it seems that the Raspberry Pi Imager is able to write the data to the micro SD card that we inserted into the micro SD card reader and connected to our computer. Because we can see here the progress bar is progressing further, and you can see that the progress in writing is happening. So let us just cross the fingers and hope that all the operating system is returned to the card. So I'm going to skip the part where it is going to write the data to the micro SD card. So it is writing now, and I'm going to skip to the end because it is going to take quite a while. The Raspberry Pi imager has finished writing the operating system to the micro SD card of size 64 GB. To be very frank, it has taken a lot of time. It has taken so much of time that I have already edited the earlier part of the video that I recorded till now, and I'm recording this bit freshly. So I'm just going to click continue and close this utility. Now I'm going to go to this option in the Windows taskbar, and here we have the option to disconnect. Okay, so it has already unmounted it from the file system. So I'm just going to close all the windows, disconnect it, and connect the micro SD card reader again to my motherboard using USB connection. So now I have physically connected it again, and it should actually flash a message like this, and it should automatically open the boot partition. So from Windows operating system, only the boot partition is readable. So I can see here the boot partition, and I can see here the USB drive I. So this I drive will not be readable. The only boot drive is readable. Okay. So I'm just going to click here to the boot, and it shows me all the files in this boot. So whatever version of Raspberry Pi you are going to use, just make sure that it has got Wi-Fi, or you have connected a USB Wi-Fi dongle to it so that it can connect to your Wi-Fi network. Now here we can see a lot of files. So out of that, we don't have to touch any file. So that is the good news. So just create an empty SSH file. So just say text document and then select all the name and type SSH and hit enter. So it is going to flash a message reading, if you change a file name extension, the file might become unusable. Are you sure you want to change it? Just say yes. So we have created an empty file with name SSH. It doesn't have any extension, remember that. So I'm just going to refresh it. And now let's read the step. So the next step is we have to create a new file known as wpa_supplicant.conf. So I'm just going to copy this entire string as it is. And here we are going to see if that file already exists. No. So WPA supplicants file doesn't exist. It's a configuration file for your Wi-Fi. So again, I'm going to say create a new file and create a text document. Again, choose everything and paste the name wpa_supplicant.conf. And if I hit enter, it should again say the same warning, and just click yes. Don't worry about it as of now. So now we need to edit this wpa_supplicants.conf. Right click it and open it with Notepad++. So Notepad++ is another very good utility that you can use to edit a lot of code files. So I'm just going to copy the code here, and I'm going to explain it in a moment. So let me copy it first. Let's copy it and paste it. So now let me explain you each and every line of this code. So here I'm specifying the country, that is equal to IN. IN stands for India, where I live. And here we have some more settings. Update config equals to 1. And here we are providing the details of network. So here scan_SSID equals to 1. SSID equals to my network name. So my network name is TP-link_710E. And the password for it is PSK equals to internet1. So this internet1 is the password, and PSK means password key. Okay. So all this text is available as a text file at my GitHub repository, and I have mentioned the location of this file stored in my GitHub in the description section of this video. So do not worry about noting down all these settings. Now I'm just going to save this file and close it, and let's update the package Notepad++. So we will let it happen concurrently without affecting our work. And now I'm going to unmount our micro SD card from my Windows computer. Okay, so it has already unmounted that micro SD card. So let me close all the unnecessary windows. Okay. And so where is it? Okay, so let me invoke the installer. Let's install the Notepad++ update. It will happen concurrently, so we don't have to worry about it. And let me minimize that. Now, let me remove the micro SD card from the card reader. So before that, physically disconnect the card reader from your Windows computer. Then insert the micro SD card into the micro SD card slot of your Raspberry Pi computer. So I'm using a Raspberry Pi 3B. This version of Raspberry Pi, that is Raspberry Pi 3B, has got 1 GB of RAM and it has got built-in Wi-Fi. And it uses micro USB port for power connection. So let me power it up. So now our Raspberry Pi is powering up and we will wait for a few moments for it to power up. So before proceeding further, we are going to require a utility known as ZenMap. So this ZenMap utility is used for detecting the computers connected to your internal network. So I'm just going to copy this URL and I'm going to paste it here in my browser. And here we have the download link for this ZenMap utility. Basically, this ZenMap is nothing but a GUI for Nmap. So I have already installed it prior to commencing this video recording. So I'm not going to show you again how to install it. It's pretty easy. So go ahead and open that ZenMap utility. So now we have to run a command there, and the command is nmap-sn 192.168.0.* So before running this command, let me disable the Wi-Fi in my mobile. So now only 3 computers are connected to this Wi-Fi network. So the first one is my router and it is going to show us as 192.168.0.1 as the IP address of the router. The second computer connected to this is the desktop where I am recording this entire stuff. And the third one is Raspberry Pi. So let us cross the fingers and click the scan button. And it has launched the scan program. So it is going to take quite some time for it to scan everything. So there is some problem. It is showing only one computer connected to that. See, this is the gateway, or this is the router where the incoming internet line is connected. And this is the computer where I'm recording, which is the current computer, the current Windows machine. So let me try to scan it again. And let's see if our Raspberry Pi has booted up. So it seems that the Raspberry Pi hasn't booted up and there seems to be some problem. So let us go ahead and debug the problem. So I am back after debugging the issue. And the issue was that I had not inserted the micro SD card into the micro SD card of Raspberry Pi 3B properly. So now I have installed the micro SD card properly into the slot and I have powered up the Raspberry Pi. And here, after scanning this network, we can see the Raspberry Pi and its associated IP address and the MAC address. So let me rescan it for you again. So here we can see that the IP address is 192.168.0.102. So for your convenience, I'm going to copy this nmap command and I'm going to paste it here in the document, which I'm going to upload on the GitHub for your reference. So let me copy the IP address and it has been copied to the clipboard of Windows operating system. Now I'm going to use a client known as MobaXterm. And I already have created a separate video for explaining all the working of this client MobaXterm. So anyway, we are going to have a look at the working of this MobaXterm briefly in this video also. So you don't have to worry about it. So now I'm going to start a local terminal. So this is the command prompt of my Windows computer. So I guess it is internally connecting to the tool like PowerShell. I'm not sure because it is able to execute Unix commands on my computer also, which is a Windows computer. So let me close the unused Windows tab. And now we can log in to the Raspberry Pi remotely with the command ssh and pi at the rate the IP address. See, pi is the name of the user. It is the default user for Raspberry Pi OS, and IP address is something that we have just detected. SSH is the name of the utility. It means secure shell. Basically, it is a Unix or Linux program. And if you remember, we had already enabled SSH by creating an empty file known as SSH without any extension in the boot partition of our SD card. Now it is able to automatically connect to the Wi-Fi because we had created wpa_supplicant.conf, which is a configuration file for Wi-Fi, and we had already provided our credentials and the name of our Wi-Fi network in that file. So whenever I'm going to hit enter, it is going to prompt me for the password, and the password is raspberry, RASPBERRY. So all lowercase, nothing uppercase. Let me hit enter, and we are into the Raspberry Pi command prompt. So basically now we are remotely accessing the command prompt of our Raspberry Pi computer. So we are accessing Raspberry Pi headlessly, which means that we are not attaching any sort of display unit to our Raspberry Pi, no VGA or HDMI monitor, and we are accessing it wirelessly because Raspberry Pi is connected to my network with Wi-Fi technology. Now let me just go ahead and clear the screen and let us execute the steps of basic setup. Okay. So here we have to run this command. The command is known as raspiconfig. Basically, it is the name of a utility which is very specific to Raspberry Pi OS. So it is going to help us to set up and configure the Raspberry Pi. Basically, all the commands that I'm going to use are listed in this document. Now it is going to open a nice window. Okay. So this is the raspiconfig utility. Now let us go to the system options, and we already have set up the wireless LAN, and we already have the password. We can change the host name through this option, and boot auto login. So it has 4 options, and by default the option is desktop auto login. Now let us go to network at boot. So it has actually selected network at boot. Okay, it means that it is going to wait for the network to be connected at the boot. And we can even have a splash screen. Let us see what options are there. Okay, I don't see any options. So let's go back. Okay, so let me open it again. And we were at splash screen. And we can even set the behavior of the power LED. Okay, I guess there is some problem. I am not able to see it properly. So let me hit escape. Another escape. Okay, so I guess I have to change the size of the characters. So I can do that by holding the control key and scrolling the mouse wheel. Now we have display options. So we have underscan, pixel doubling, and screen blanking. So we are not concerned with these options. Okay. And I can just say back. Interface options. Now this is very important. Let's go and enable the camera. Okay. And these were the display options. Okay. And let's go back. Okay. So SSH server is already enabled, but we are enabling it again. So it will take a moment. Let's enable the VNC. Okay, now VNC is enabled. Now we are going to see how to connect to the remote desktop with VNC in a moment. Let's enable the SPI, that is serial peripheral interface. Let's enable the I2C. Let's enable the serial port. Let's enable one wire protocol. Let's enable remote GPIO. So we have enabled everything. And at this stage, you can even change the password of the system. So this is my development machine, and I prefer keeping the default password because I keep on writing many programs that actually access this Raspberry Pi with the default username and password. So I will have to change the passwords in all those programs. So I prefer to keep it as it is, but if you want to use this Raspberry Pi for some sensitive application, you might want to change the password using this option. Now let us go ahead and check the performance options. So we can overclock. No, we won't be able to overclock because only Pi 1 and Pi 2 can be overclocked with this tool. And I have created a separate video for Raspberry Pi 4 overclocking, the link to which is present in the description section of this video. So do not forget to check that video too. Okay, now let's go and check the performance option again. GPU memory is 64 MB. So as of now, this Raspberry Pi has got around 1 GB of memory, and 64 MB of memory should be good enough for display. Okay, so I'm just going to cancel this option also. And overlay file system and fan. So we can actually set the behavior of GPIO fan. So as of now, I haven't connected any fan to the GPIO. So I'm not going to set anything in this. We can even change the localization option. So locale, here we can choose our own country. Okay. So I'm going to cancel it. I don't know what it is. Okay. Time zone. Let's choose the time zone. That is important. So I'm going to say Indian Ocean. Okay. I should say Asia. And I should choose Kolkata. Let's choose the keyboard. So it is going to take some time because there are a lot of key maps, and we should actually use some sort of US style keyboard. So I guess there is some problem. It is not loading the key maps for the keyboard. Okay, we will just leave this and we will go to the WLAN country, and I'm going to choose India. Okay. So WLAN country is set to India. Now let's go to advanced options and let us go ahead and expand the file system. Okay, the root partition has been resized. The file system will be enlarged upon the next boot. So let's hit OK. And let us update this tool to the latest version. It might actually take a moment. And anyway, we have connected it to the Wi-Fi at the time of setup itself. So it is going to update the Raspi config utility itself. So it seems that it has fetched everything and it is going to copy the files now, install all the stuff. Okay, it seems that installation is complete. It is going to reload the Raspi config tool again. Okay. Now we can check the VNC resolution. Okay, so basically before moving forward, just go to the display options and go to the VNC resolution. So I prefer 1920 by 1080 display, or this is going to be too much for our little Raspberry Pi to handle. So let's set it to 1024 by 786 and it should actually do well. And let's go ahead and hit finish. So we are not going to reboot right away. So I'm going to say no and let's clear. Now let us see more commands to be executed. Meanwhile, I will close this Nmap window and click close anyway. Okay, now let us go to the list and check the commands. Okay, so this step we will do it in the end. So now we can update all the references like this. So sudo apt update, it is going to update the references to all the repositories. So it will take a moment. So all the actions that we are performing, they will require internet connection to be active. Okay, so it is actually updating connections to the repositories which have the packages. Now we are going to perform a full upgrade of our operating system, and it should not take much because we have already installed Raspberry Pi full OS. So it will not actually download and install a lot of utilities. So let's go ahead and perform a full upgrade. It is going to ask us actually that how much archives are going to be downloaded. Okay, the size was only 1 MB, so it will actually download in some time. Okay, let's see how much archives. Okay, sorry, it is not 1 MB, it is 1 GB. So it is 1024 MB of archives. So it means that it is going to download 1 GB of archives from the internet. To be specific, it is going to download it from the repository. And it is definitely going to take quite a lot of time. So while it updates it, let us see how to connect it using VNC. So we will not close this window, because if we are going to close this window, it is going to interrupt the update operation. So I'm just going to go to this option, sessions, and I'm going to say SSH. Sorry, we already are connected through a SSH session. We are going to use VNC. And do you remember the IP address? The IP address was 104, I guess. Or let us run the Zenmap utility. I'm really sorry, I have forgotten the address. IP address of the Raspberry Pi we are connected to. We know the command nmap-sn 192.168.0. So I already have disconnected my Android mobile phone from this Wi-Fi. So it should not actually show us many computers connected to it in the results. It should show the Wi-Fi router, Raspberry Pi, and my computer. So this 102 is the Raspberry Pi. So let me copy this. It is copied in the clipboard, and let's go to the MobiX term and let's paste it and let's say OK. Okay, now it is asking us for the password, and the password is Raspberry. So I'm going to click show password for your convenience, but never do it in presence of people you don't trust. Okay. So I trust you all. So if I say OK, it should actually launch a VNC session. Okay, it again asks me for the password. Show password. Okay, it says no configured security type is supported by 3.3 VNC viewer. So I guess there is some problem with the VNC viewer. So we will just go ahead and install a VNC viewer. Okay, so real VNC viewer. So I'm going to mention this link in the document. Okay, so let me save it and let's download the VNC viewer for Windows. So it will just take a moment because its size is only 11.3 MB and my internet connection is pretty fast. So let's install it. Okay, it's installing. Okay, next, I accept it. Next, and install. Okay, now it is going to ask us for admin credentials, I guess, before commencing. So let's wait till the installation finishes. Let us see the status of our update. Okay, it seems that it has downloaded everything and now it is installing everything one by one. So what happened to the setup? I don't know. So let us wait for any one of these things to respond, and then I'm going to continue with our process. So the VNC viewer has been installed and I'm going to click finish. And now let us check the status of our upgrade. So now it has performed the system-wide upgrade of all the packages. Now we are going to upgrade the firmware of Raspberry Pi, and there is a simple command for it, sudo rpi-update. Now this sudo rpi-update, this command is specific to Raspberry Pi OS. It will not work on any other flavor of Debian that you are going to install on Raspberry Pi or any other computer. So let us finish the RPI update. So it is going to take a few moments. So again, I'm going to skip the part where we have to wait. So it has finished installing the update for Raspberry Pi's firmware, and it seems that it was successful. We can check the status of the last executed command with this special command echo $?. So it reads 0. It means that the last command was successfully executed. Now let me clear the screen and proceed with our tutorial. Now, one of the major things that we need to enable is X11 forwarding. So X11 forwarding means we can access the graphical user interface applications of the Raspberry Pi without connecting to it using VNC or any RDP program. So we can just type in the names of any utility, let's say IDLE, and okay, IDLE command not found. So let me clear it. And what could be the command that is going to help us to install or to demonstrate the GUI capabilities? Console. Okay, that is also not installed. So let us install sudo apt install console -y. So let me mention this command in the tutorial section also. Okay, it is not able to locate the package console because the spelling was wrong. So let me copy this command and mention it in the document that we are referring. So console is a GUI terminal like utility. So basically it is a terminal emulator and it is of few hundred MBs. So again, it is going to take quite a lot of time to install. So again, I'm going to skip the part where we have to wait. So we have installed the terminal emulator utility known as console. So basically it is a terminal emulator for KDE desktop. And let us try to invoke it. So just type in KONSOLE and enter. And it should actually show us a graphical user interface window from the Raspberry Pi. So now this terminal emulator utility console, it is running on the Raspberry Pi, and we are able to access this GUI of this utility through a special mechanism known as X11 forwarding. So for X11 forwarding, we need to have X11 enabled on the Raspberry Pi, which is enabled by default, it seems. And we also need to have a running X server on our Windows computer. So there is a utility known as X server. So many programs provide that utility. So here we have the X server running. Okay. So if you actually go to the top right corner, you will see an X symbol. And here you can see X server is running, and list of listening displays will also be shown. So that is 127.0.0.1, which is the current computer or the IP address of the home system. And so this is how we can open any GUI utility using X11 forwarding. So let me close it because it has actually blocked the prompt. And if you want to launch it in the non-blocking mode, you can just say console and ampersand like this. So it is going to print the process ID of the application, which we can terminate by either clicking this or by typing in the command kill -9 and 13468. Okay, so it has killed that console window. So this way we can access the GUI programs of Raspberry Pi using X11 forwarding. So it is enabled by default, and I'm also going to tell you how to enable it in case it is not enabled in further revisions of this operating system by default. So for enabling X11 forwarding, we have to make the modifications to this file etc ssh sshd_config. So there is a folder known as etc. Within that there is another folder known as ssh, and there is a file known as sshd_config. So I'm just going to copy this entire command. So it requires elevated privileges. That's why we are using sudo and Nano is a simple text editor in the text mode. Okay, so if I hit enter, it is going to open this file in the Nano text editor. So here we can see that setting about X11 forwarding. So there will be a lot of settings here. Whatever you want to enable, you can just enable by removing that hash symbol. Okay, so X11 will be enabled by default. So I'm just scrolling down and it should be somewhere. Okay, so here we have X11 forwarding and it is enabled because it is yes. Okay, so in case it is disabled in the further revisions of this operating system, okay, we don't know about the default settings, right? So we can just go ahead and enable it by turning the no to yes and by removing the hash or the pound sign before this particular line. So I'm just going to press Ctrl and X on the keyboard and let me clear it. So this is how we can work with X11 forwarding. Now let us move further. So we can remove unnecessary stuff by this command sudo apt auto remove. So let me copy this. So we are yet to restart the computer. So it is automatically going to remove all the unnecessary stuff and it is asking us for the confirmation. So I'm going to type in Y and hit enter. So we can even mention it in the command itself. So now it is not going to ask you for the confirmation when you are going to run this entire command. Okay, so it is successful. So let's clear the screen and let us see the list of shells available for Raspberry Pi Raspbian OS, and you can find that list here in this file /etc/shells. And if I hit enter, it is going to read the list of all the shells and it is going to show us. So basically we have sh shell, then we have born again shell, we also have rbash, we have dash, we have mksh, we have mksh static. Okay, so these are all the shells that are available with this Raspberry Pi Raspbian OS. You can install additional shell with sudo apt install and the name of that particular shell. So I'm going to have a detailed tutorial for all the Linux and Unix commands as well as shell scripting in the Linux and Unix environment, and the link to that tutorial is mentioned in the description section of this video down below. So do not forget to check that tutorial in case you want to be a pro with shell scripting and Linux commands. Now let us move forward. We are yet to log in to the desktop of this Raspberry Pi remotely. Okay, so now I'm going to try to do that using the VNC viewer. So we have real VNC viewer, right? Okay, so I'm not able to see VNC. Okay, so we have here VNC viewer, and let me delete the earlier stuff. So I'm going to go to file and say new connection. And if I'm not wrong, the name of the IP address of the system was 192.168.0.2. So I'm not going to touch anything else. I'm just going to click OK. And if I right click and then say connect, it is going to prompt us for the password, I guess. It should be able to connect with the real VNC. Let us see what is the problem. So it is not connecting. It could be because we haven't restarted the system. Now I'm going to tell you how to restart the system. Okay. So what we are going to do, we are going to stop this process and I'm going to minimize this and we can restart it with init 6. So it is going to restart it. So let me hit enter and it is going to restart it. Okay. And okay, so I guess it says init denied. Okay, it requires elevated privileges. So sudo init 6 and it should be able to restart the Raspberry Pi. See, it has gone unresponsive. It means that the connection is terminated and it is going to go ahead and shut down and relaunch the boot sequence. So let me say sudo init 6. So this is the command for restarting the Raspberry Pi, or you can use it to restart any Unix-like operating system from shell. Now let us go to the ZenMap utility and let us try to scan and let us see if our Raspberry Pi has acquired a new IP address or it is reusing the same IP address. It should actually reuse the same IP address. I'm not sure. So it will take some time for Raspberry Pi to restart. This one is an old machine. It is Raspberry Pi 3B. So that's why it is taking some time to restart. Now let me rescan the network. So this is the very safe way we can restart the machine. And here I can see the Raspberry Pi connected. Okay. So meanwhile, I have connected my Android mobile to the network. That's why it is showing us an additional IP address connected to this network. But we are going to ignore that, and I'm just going to say copy. And let us go to the MobiX term and let us say SSH pi @ and let's paste it here. And again, it is prompting us for the password RASPBERRY, everything lowercase. And if I hit enter, it takes us to the command prompt. So let's clear it and let us attempt to connect to the VNC of Raspberry Pi. So it should actually connect, because it has never happened that it is not able to connect. So it is taking too much time. I'm not sure why it is not able to connect to the VNC of Raspberry Pi. So I'm just going to go ahead and stop. But this is the sure shot way of trying to connect to Raspberry Pi. So maybe the operating system has recently been updated and they haven't actually done a lot of work on remote desktop or VNC. That's why it is not able to connect. I don't know. But you don't worry about all these things, because we are able to access the GUI utilities of the Raspberry Pi using the X11 forwarding. So for example, if I type in console-y, then it is going to launch. Okay, sorry. So console and ampersand, then it is going to launch that console utility, and we will have the utility running on Raspberry Pi, and it is accessible to us in the Windows machine from which we are connecting to Raspberry Pi. So we haven't actually accessed the desktop of that Raspberry Pi, but we are still able to access the GUI utilities. And so this way we have a lot of utilities where we can graphically interact with any one of these utilities. Okay, so I can also start a utility known as a LeafPad. So it is simple textpad like program. And if I hit enter, okay, it says LeafPad command not found. So there is no need to worry, because we can install it manually with sudo apt install LeafPad. So it is a very good simple utility. Okay. So it's a very small utility because it is downloading only 87 KB of archives. And I'm just going to mention that here. Okay. After init 6, I have installed sudo apt install LeafPad. So it is a simple text editor, much like Notepad in Windows. The only thing is that it is free. So it has installed LeafPad. So I'm going to say LeafPad and enter. So I had to do all this stuff in order to show you another program that we can access through X11 forwarding. Now you can see here it is saying untitled @Raspberry Pi, because this utility is running on Raspberry Pi and we are accessing the GUI of that utility through the X11 forwarding again, much like the earlier application console. But many people would have had the doubt that it is a console application, maybe it is running on this Windows system itself. That's why I didn't want you to be doubtful that X11 forwarding doesn't work. And you really don't have to do anything. I just showed you the procedure to enable it in case it is not enabled. So if you are using any different flavor of Linux or any BSD operating system or any other operating system, Unix-like operating system on your Raspberry Pi, and where X11 forwarding is not enabled by default, the process is same for all the Unix-like operating systems. Okay, and I have got everything mentioned here in this document. So this is pretty much end of our tutorial. And so where is that LeafPad program? Okay, yeah, here we have the LeafPad program, and here is the process ID. So 1513. So I'm just going to go ahead and close it. So we have actually extensively seen how to install the Raspberry Pi OS and how to upgrade it, how to install a few useful utilities, and how to remotely connect to it, and how to access the GUI utilities with X11 forwarding. Now, this is only the beginning, and the world of Unix and Unix-like operating systems like Linux is quite vast. And in order to be comfortably work with development, you should be very well aware of all the commands in the Linux that we are using. So for that, I'm going to create a separate tutorial, the link for which I'm going to mention in the description section of this video. So in order to not miss any of the upcoming videos that I'm going to upload, I am humbly requesting you to subscribe to my YouTube channel. So this is going to encourage me to create more and more of such useful tutorials, which is going to benefit the developers community and all the students in general. So thanks a lot for watching this video lecture. Do let me know if you have any questions or if you have any doubts in the comment section of this video. Again, please do not forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Do like and share this video on the social media. Thanks a lot once again, and I will see you next time.